Welcome to Light Over Heat with Professor David Yamani. This week I want to talk again about the value of intellectual diversity. Last week I talked about the value of intellectual diversity in terms of helping me to think about the Buffalo mass murder in more complex ways. This week I want to talk about the value of intellectual diversity in terms of a peer review of a paper I've been working on. Many of you who follow this channel know I've been writing a paper on the evolution of American gun culture for an issue of the Annals of the American Academy of Political and Social Science on gun violence prevention. So I received peer reviews on the paper that I wrote for the Annals from the editorial team, as well as one external reviewer who is not known to me. I don't know whether the reviewer knows who I am, but it's fairly obvious from the substance of what I wrote who I am. In any event, the nice thing about the 3 full pages of feedback that I got on my work is that the people reviewing the paper fundamentally disagree with my approach to studying guns and gun culture. Right? I begin by saying guns are normal and normal people use guns. I elaborate that in the paper. The peer reviewer obviously begins with a different understanding of guns because he or she, I think he says in the review that that whole first part of the paper in which I discuss the normality of guns is superfluous. Of course, our different starting points isn't a liability in this case. Our different starting points is actually a strength because that intellectual diversity means that his comments really force me to consider my ideas more thoroughly. If he simply wrote, "I love it, everything you say is great," that doesn't challenge me to do better in any way. It doesn't challenge me to think more deeply. It doesn't challenge me to think more broadly. It doesn't challenge me to reconsider my thoughts on the issue. And in particular, this reviewer highlights something which I didn't really capture very well in my work when I talk about the changing face of gun owners. So I've observed the fact that gun owners are becoming more diverse politically, socially, economically, in terms of race, gender, sexuality, and all that. But what I don't really take account of is the fact that many of those new non-traditional gun owners who are getting into guns for defensive purposes are actually getting into guns because they are afraid of existing gun owners. Right? They are afraid of the people who are standing guard at the Capitol buildings. They are scared of the people who are storming the U.S. Capitol building on January 6th. They are afraid of the people who are policing Black Lives Matter protests. So because of the diversity in our viewpoints about guns generally, this specific comment that the reviewer makes is going to make my paper better. And this raises a broader point about the value of intellectual diversity and the downsides of not having intellectual diversity, because a lot of times, especially in the field of gun studies, everybody is in agreement that what needs to be understood is how bad guns are and how guns lead to more bad outcomes, and that there needs to be greater control and regulation of guns. And if that is both the author's and the reviewer's point of view, then some things that are less adequate intellectually are very likely to slip through the cracks. Now, Jonathan Haidt actually addresses this issue specifically in his book, The Righteous Mind. And so let me conclude by reading a passage that highlights the value of intellectual diversity and the downsides of not having it. Haidt writes, "We should not expect individuals to produce good, open-minded, truth-seeking reasoning, particularly when self-interest or reputational concerns are in play. But if you put individuals together in the right way, such that some individuals can use their reasoning powers to disconfirm the claims of others, and all individuals feel some common bond or shared fate that allows them to interact civilly, You can create a group that ends up producing good reasoning as an emergent property of the social system. This is why it's so important to have intellectual and ideological diversity within any group or institution whose goal is to find truth, such as an intelligence agency or a community of scientists, or to produce good public policy, such as a legislature or advisory board. I personally benefit from intellectual diversity from people who are in the gun community who don't see guns in the same way I do, or society in the same way I do. I also benefit from intellectual diversity from other scholars who study guns, who don't see guns in the same way I do. If we interact civilly, we can use intellectual diversity to our benefit. Let's promote it. Let's talk to each other across the divides that we have in the interest of making things better.